Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. You know, I talk about Yiddishkeit, about Orthodox Judaism, people that keep the 613 commandments, but other people that may, whatever group you're in, what I'm about to talk about is directly, negaya to every, to any group, and but I'm going to be talking about it more on the, the ultra orthodox, the people that they try very hard to make sure that they keep all the commandments. Now, in our communities, whether you're Hasidish, Litvish, or Sephardi, whichever one you are, right? Some people that are Taimidi want to claim that their own sect, but people look at them as Sephardim. You understand? Wherever you are, whatever group you are that's fully Orthodox, there's this idea that this yeshiva is good, and everybody's trying to get their child into that specific Jewish school, whether it's for the girls, whether it's for the boys. And there's this idea that this is good and these other ones are less. Now, I just want to let you know that it's funny that boys, when you have a young boy, that you're trying to send into these yeshivas, he doesn't really consider it so important which yeshiva he goes to. And then when he gets into shidduchim, unfortunately the way shidduchim are, this whole resume business, it makes a huge difference where he learned, resume-wise. You understand? Even though it shouldn't. Now when it comes to girls naturally are very, they take it very seriously. They want to get into the girls' school, the girls will think, I want to get into Michon, want to get into Beis Yaakov. They want to get into what's considered, what people think of as the hush of a place. And in their mind, they think that if I get into that place, then that's going to help me get a good shidduch. The funny thing is that when it comes to shidduchim, they might put it on the resume and think it's all important, but the reality is that the boys don't care. You understand? Is she a nice person? Is she beautiful? Does she want to live a Jewish life? That's it. You understand? Boys don't have all these complications. It's more simple, I just heard one of these talks from Matt Walsh, and he says, if a girl wants to get married, all she has to do, if she wants to get married, meaning if you want that there'll be a man that wants you, all she has to do is just not be heavy. You understand? She just has to be skinny, and that's it. There will be a man that will want her. You understand? So, that's pretty funny. It's very true. Because in the secular world they don't have the 613 mitzvahs. They don't have this idea. The focus of a pretty girl. That's all. If you don't have a pretty girl, what's life worth? You understand? Now in Judaism, it's more like if you don't have a wife, if you don't have a family, you understand? But those are things that in the secular world takes time for a person to figure that out. Sometimes there's people that never figure that out, They're these old bachelors and they're jumping from one to the next. They never realize that the beauty of having a spouse is that you're devoted to her, that you have a family with her. You understand? So, and vice versa. Each way. So, so it's just funny that you see that what the boy doesn't think is important, which really isn't important, is actually affecting him a life in today's system. And what a girl thinks is important is actually unimportant. She might write it in there and think that's why he picked her. But as a boy, as a man, I could tell you, couldn't care less what school you go to, right? Those three things we said, right? We want someone that's religious, you understand, looks good, and is a nice person. That's it. You understand? It's very, very simple. We don't have to get into the thing trying to get people that are single to marry divorced people. We're not going to get into that. That's obviously, you can't put that into this equation because that's something out of the ordinary. We're talking about the ordinary. Okay. So, and that's it. So that's just something interesting about the yeshivas, about the schools, the Jewish, the Jewish schools that people go to. Something interesting about it. Now, getting back to our question, people are saying we want to get into Brisk, we want to get into Panovich. I remember talking to someone, I'm not going to, try not to say people's names. I was talking to someone that was, he's a Baal Tshuva, but in the Goyish world was a huge, huge success. And then, I'm not even sure how, but somehow he didn't, it's not like his success. During his success, he became fully religious and then eventually left that way of life. Which is, I think, we shouldn't be making a situation that people come back to Hashem because of bad things happening to them. Now, if that happens, of course, you should come back, right? But we should make it that people also come back when good things happen. Meaning that the Jewish community should be so healthy, it should be so good that people that are successful want to join, not that we stop them from joining because of certain radical ideologies of not letting people work, keeping them learning full time, women having to support a whole family, and they're also having babies at the same time. All this, I think it's very close to. I don't know. It's bad. It's not good. Doesn't mean that there aren't individuals that's what that's meant for them. It doesn't mean that there could be, but 99.9% of people, it's not so. So to take that little, let's even say 99%, it's not. That 1% that maybe this type of lifestyle work, which I personally don't hold of it, but I understand that there could be a percent. The percent is small, and to push that onto everybody is wrong. And you really can't push it onto anybody. It could be suggested, you understand? You could encourage, but to say that this is what's supposed to be, that's wrong, and that's already entering into cult territory when you do opposite, when you have ideologies that are opposite logic. This is the realm of cult ideology, because when you cause a person to go against logic, that in and of itself is cult ideology. It doesn't mean that everything you do is cult, and it could be that it is everything, that your whole system is cult, but it definitely means part of the system is cult ideology. And second of all, doing things that are anti-logic ruins the person's brain and creates a cult. So this is two very important factors. Now, getting back to what we're saying. So people say there's this yeshiva, there's that yeshiva, and they have this whole thing. Everybody's fighting to get into what people consider the best yeshivas, the best schools, the best Jewish schools. And that actually could change, like in the boys' world, in the young man's world. You understand? There's certain yeshivas that have the fame, and it's very hard for different yeshiva to come in and get it. You understand? You got Mir, you got Brisk, you got Panovich. There's certain places that have the fame, and everything else is secondary, and then there's the third and fourth. You understand? In the girls' school, however, it's actually very interesting how things work. And of course, you have the Beis Yaakov, you have the people think Mechon, right? But there's also like 1 year this is considered to be the best place to be, and then the next year something else is considered the best place to be, and it's really just calculated to a big extent on who says no more, right? Unfortunately, it's like, why do Harvard and Yale, why are they considered so important, even though they hardly teach people anything? It's the small colleges that the people that come out of there, they're real people, and it's not full of racism against people of different colors, against different religions, against different genders. You understand? They don't have that. A lot of the small colleges, and they're really studious. But why do the big colleges? Why do people think that that's, that's where you that's where I need to go. That's the make it or break it, because they say no so many times, because there was a temporary time that they were very good, and now everybody wants to go to them, and that influx now gets them to say no. Now that they're getting their yashivas, their auspiciousness, their honor from, they could just get it from saying no. They don't have to produce good things. That's what they do, and they just make more money, and that's pretty sad. A lot of a lot of businesses are getting smarter, and they're actually, it's not just that they're they're actually going to test someone. They're not going to automatically think that someone from Harvard or Yale is they're not just automatically going to think that most people, until recently just thought that if they're from Harvard and Yale, they'll take precedence from someone from some other college, this little college, understand? But so it's not only that now they'll actually look at them as equals, because they understand that Harvard and Yale isn't keeping up to what it used to be. It's not only that, but they'll actually prefer the small colleges. Meaning, when they hear these big colleges that have all these things that go on in there, pretty egregious, you understand? They're actually afraid to accept from these colleges that have all these racist things happen there, and it's against, they're racist against, people of all religions, whatever, different parties from all religions, they're against them. Certain ones they'll fight against more because it's easier, to pick on a Jew, it's easier. But to pick on Donald Trump, it's a bit harder, but they'll go against, them also, and they'll go against this, and they'll go, you understand? So this is, a lot of these people, they're at war with their parents, parents doesn't hold of their ideologies, they treat them very bad. So this is, extremely, important. People are thinking this is what's good. So first of all, we have to know, when we're talking now about Jewish schools, you have to know, just because people say that it's Brisk, it's Mir, it's Panovich, and they automatically think it's better. First of all, who says it's better? That's first of all. Maybe a small school, or even if it's a big school, but maybe they're more attentive to the children and maximizing their growth. So who knows, first of all. And second of all, there's another point here. There's another point that people today, since learning Torah Hashem is pushed so much, right? Learning the Book of God is pushed so much to the extent that they're saying, you should really learn for your whole life and not work, and they don't teach people how to make a living, and it's sort of looked bad upon someone if they work. They push learning so much. Today, what is considered a good school? A school that the Bachrim there, that the girls there are, learning and obedient and, not worldly. You understand? Not with street smarts. That they don't consider something. They don't consider that something chashiv, something admirable. Rather, it's more like robots. You insert a chip, and and it just goes in, and they don't do anything, and that's it. Shalom al Yisrael. First of all, that ideology, first of all, is wrong, right? We need all different types of people in this world. That's why Hashem made all different types of people, right? God made all different types of people because there's all different missions that need to be accomplished, and the different type, this person is good for this, that person is good for this, according to his temperament, according to his abilities, you understand? Right? Even a person that, God forbid, is Down syndrome, right? He also has a great purpose. He comes into a yeshiva, into a girls' school, whatever it is, and people stop fighting. They see the Down syndrome person. It brings God into the room. It brings Hashem into the room. You understand? I remember of Bender, there was in his yeshiva in Far Rockaway, now it's already going a while back. He has this huge building. They knocked down the old one. They built this huge, big one. And, you could fit all the brisk yeshivas, won't even fill up that building, just to understand. I think if you put all the Mir yeshivas together, I think it will maybe the same size. All the Mir buildings, there's all these different buildings there. If you put them all together, might be equal to that one building. And they have another building on the same campus, the original building, I think. That's there, and then there's the new one that they knocked down, a different building that was there, you understand? So, this, it's funny how in Shidduchim for boys, like if you say you go to Rav Bender's yeshiva, they don't look at you so kosher, but he literally has one of the biggest yeshivas in the world. You understand? He's literally taking care of so many boys, and he is such a special person, He is, right? If we could get 10% of his Gan Eden, we can all be set forever, such a special person. So, getting back to what we're discussing, that people think that since this ideology of the, the more robot type of student, that shows that the school is a good school, but people that are a little more lively, more worldly, more street smart, right? That there it's, if you're pushing the regular system, there's resistance, right? We have a share, I don't remember just a recent share close to this one, that we talk about how you should teach, you understand? But when you push this system of teaching into these type of boys, it creates a bit wildkeit, a bit of wildness. Why? Because you're teaching them what's supposed to be taught to a different type of person, but not to them. These type of people, there's a different way of teaching them, and it's not that this one's better and that one's better. There's different missions, and there's different ways of teaching people that brings out their abilities. And so so this is extremely important to understand. That that these different yeshivas, it's not that we shouldn't make the mistake to think this one's better than that. There are different yeshivas, and there's ones that people look at as more wild and they think that that's less. It's not less. Each one has a special mission. And people that have experienced life a bit, they could see that many of the people that go on to do great things in Klal Yisrael are those that when they were younger were very difficult, but people, they didn't give up on them, and they were kind, and they were patient, and as they grew up, they matured. They matured because you taught them ethics, because you taught them Torah, because you taught them how to make a living, how to take care of themselves. And growing up, the mind then realizes that this is wrong. Being in a place that rewards righteousness and goodness and kindness, they were these other aspects, they learned how to use their abilities in a good way. And this is extremely important. And how people look at schools, people will push their kids into this type of school because in their mind their child has to go to the best school. First of all, they have to go to the best school in their mind. That's considered the best, so that's that. And also they think shidduchim, and they think this and that. They have to know that you have to send your child to the best school for him. And if you send him to the wrong, people think if you send him to that type of school that it's more like robotic, very obedient, people that are naturally very, very holy, and they just do what they're supposed to do. You understand? Again, many of those people also do great things. You understand? Each one has their mission. Our point is not to think of what needs to be done and push people into it, but rather to see the mission that Hashem gave each person and help them achieve that. That's what our duty is. So I just want to tell you a story. In this case, I'll tell you the name because it happened with me. I was zeicha to do it. I was by a Shabbos with a yeshiva, and one of the grades, there was a boy there that I found out because I brought my ATV, and they vandalized my ATV, and people that there was this one specific boy that rates on that got his whole, let's see, right, we have different grades, so this was 11th grade in that case. He got the 11th grade to become like, there was this one specific boy that pushed the whole 11th grade to, they're older, they're tall, they're strong, you understand, to control and make everybody else fear them. And if you said something, they'll just smack you. And we've talked in a different share, the issue about chinuch today is that you can't tell someone that they can't do it, and then you don't solve the issue either. You understand? You can't. So that's what was happening, and all the other bachrim in the yeshiva, and there was, grades underneath there. You have 10th and 9th, and littler boys, and they all knew, just don't mess, because if you do anything you say anything, if 11th graders, they could even push you to do something. Now, that you didn't do anything, they just could come over to you and push you to do something. You understand? But that was more rare. But certainly, if you did anything, kids sometimes they fool around. They, if you did anything, they would come and beat you up. So it was very scary, and the whole atmosphere was scary. But they left. There was this one boy he was the one that was pushing this whole 11th grade to do it. Right? In general, in the Orthodox Jewish schools, you don't see that violence that you'll see in public school. That's where a lot of Gentiles, people that are not Jewish, they don't send their kids to public. They get private school. You understand? Or they send to schools of their religion. Why? Because public school is the people there aren't taking care properly of the place. And today they're even checking you. They have, it's like 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 when terrorists come, you have to check each one, make sure they don't have any weapons. That's what's happening. All the kids became terrorists to check them for weapons. You suspect them of possibly being a terrorist. It's terrible. I mean, this is people have to put their brain together to fix this. You understand? And we have a shir, that's a Jewish class, that talks about how to be mechanech kids, mamish close to this one. It could be the one right before this, I don't remember. And if you did things that way, then this whole thing would fall apart, but unfortunately that is the reality, and also in the Jewish world, unfortunately, some of that creeps in now, into us. We're here. You are affected by your surroundings, and this boy was he was mobilizing. They should have put him as a commander or something at a young age to get him into some type of army base, or you'll see what I suggested, but you'll see what we, and Baruch Hashem that happened. But you'll see in a moment what goes on. So, people that are very rough, it's good to put them get them enrolled in the army, because then they're able to get out that energy, and they learn how to use it to help and protect people. You can't just not use that energy. You have to look. You must put it towards a good use. Otherwise, it automatically goes to bad, unless the person is a very spiritual type of person. You understand? He'll be running around doing chesed nonstop, and but so and sometimes you don't even allow them to do chesed. So even if someone would be running around and doing kindness and helping people, but you don't allow him because you say he has to learn the whole day, then that could force him into coming in it coming out in a negative way. So so getting back to the story, so this boy he was also pretty strong. He was stronger than average, and he had a lot of chutzpah, and he basically turned the whole 11th grade into a gang. And I guess, it's funny because the boys that were following him, meaning the whole 11th grade, basically turned into a gang. Most of the Bachrim there, unfortunately. But the ones that were like following him around were like these short 11th graders that were like fat. So it was a bit interesting. Now, he was also on the shorter side, but he was strong, and he had his he could just go berserk. So he had that, to help him, accomplish this. You understand? Yeah. So I realized what was happening. Now I'm a bit older. I'm not a pushover. I'm a nice. People think they, Baruch Hashem, I'm a pretty nice person. But I say pretty nice because I was usually like extremely nice. But I was taught by my Rosh Yeshiva that you have to, in Kiruv, when you go into Kiruv, so sometimes they could push you around. You're a nice person, they'll push you around. You have to say, I'm a nice person, but I'm not weak. So that's what I mean. A nice person, but I'm not weak. I could, I could talk strongly or explain why someone's wrong, and at the same time, if someone starts up, I could defend myself. So, this, and it's also that they're young. So when you're older, they're automatically more scared of you. Let's say even if I wasn't strong, they would automatically be more scared if someone's older because they're not fully developed. So they're just still scared of someone being older, that person could overpower them. So you understand? So basically I'm there, and I'm with the 10th grade guys, because I'm sleeping with them. Very geschmacka people, nice people. And this 11th grade all of a sudden feels that their kayak is being challenged because I'm there. Now that these boys are not so afraid because I'm there. And now when they want to push them around and I'm there, so then they'll actually defend themselves. They'll speak up. And I don't allow iniquities, injustice to happen around me. You understand? So not if you're just we are the extension of Hashem, of God in this world, and just like Hashem does truth, if you have the ability, you got to do it. And definitely in this situation, I had it. So they came after my ATV. They they disconnected the wires from the battery that's in the ATV that connects to the whole system, because it's a start engine with a battery. So they disconnected it, and had to figure out that they did that. I was wondering why I didn't turn on, and you understand. And then they push it to here or there. You understand? Baruch Hashem, they didn't go and start breaking the ATV. I'm sure in some other circles they might have done that. Or just tossed it into a river or something. I don't know. But again. So it was funny. At night they tried to come in and do like a sneak attack. So the first time they came in where I was, and then I got up, so they all ran away. So I didn't want to be catch by surprise. So I put I put a mattress there, and then a shelf there. So if they push it, I think I just put the mattress there. So if they push, the mattress falls, and I'll wake up from that noise. So I can't be a sneak attack on me. And if they come from the other side, I suggested to the boys they should put up a mattress. They didn't want to do it. Okay, so it was a whole situation. Let's put it that way. Because I'm willing to fight if I need to, but I'll do everything I can to prevent it. So you understand? I'm really not looking to fight, because the ways of Hashem is justice. But if you can avoid fighting, don't look for the fight. Don't look. You understand? So I would prefer not to. So Baruch Hashem, it didn't come to that. But I figured out, I talked to the 10th graders, I talked to the 9th graders, even some of the 10th graders that they were there, but unfortunately in the Litvische yeshivas, this idea, I even spoke to some of the 11th graders that, they were good people and they weren't interested in this fighting and all this. But at the same time, they didn't do anything about it. You understand? So whenever I spoke to the 10th graders and I told them, I said, because in the 10th graders there was some tall guys there. Some of them, I could see that they were strong, and just because they're not 11th grade, they're a grade younger, but they could defend themselves if needed, but they didn't think that they could. So I told them, you could defend yourself. You understand? And they said, and I said, if you stick up for each other, then they wouldn't be able to hurt you. You understand? So meaning, if this 11th grader starts up with this 10th grader, if you all come and protect your 10th grader, then the 11th grader he's going to have to get the whole 11th grade to come fight with you, and then it's going to be such a big thing that he's for sure going to get kicked out of yeshiva. You understand? So if you would look up, if you would take it seriously, if you would defend each other, then this wouldn't happen. In their mind, they told me that no, how could we? They considered it wrong to get involved and beat up someone if they're not being attacked. They said no. If they're attacking someone, you can defend them. So, again, in the schools, this idea that you can't do anything, it's wrong to fight. And of course, if someone's being beat up, then they'll fight back. But they don't realize that that's not true. It's not true that it's in all scenarios. It's wrong to initiate a fight. But if someone's initiating a fight with you, you could all fight to defend yourself. And that idea wasn't taught to them. And unfortunately, people, probably the Rebbeim were hoping that it wouldn't be taught to them. You understand? But I told it to them, but didn't look like they were going to listen to me. Take my advice. But I said it to them, So that's what happened there. You have to be careful sometimes when you go with the Shabbaton with Bachrim, You have to, So then I spoke with them, and I figured out that there was this specific Bach. I'm not going to say his name. I'm not going to say to which you'll hear in a second. We're going to leave out details, but I'm just going to say the story without the details. So this Bacher, I found that he is the cause of everything. He rates on. He pushes everybody to be the aggressive, to listen to the Yetzirah, to the Satan, and to control people through force and scare, and even when it's unjust. You understand? There was and to take things out of proportion, and to just rule with fear. It's all wrong. So I told the Bachram, I wanted to get who does he listen to. So I finally, the Bachram gave me different numbers, and one of the Bachram said, this one person he listens to. So I called that person, and I told him like this. I said, this yeshiva, you have 8 of the boys, nice, easygoing, spiritual boys, that's this yeshiva. The Rabbeim in this yeshiva, that's, if you want to know what's mat'im for the yeshiva, what fits for the yeshiva, you look at the Rabbeim. If the Rebbe is like this, then that means he needs to teach people like that. You understand? Boys that are rough need a Rebbe that's rough. So I said, the boys here are edel boys, and the Rabbeim here are edel. There was one, the Mashgiach there was a bit of a chaverman, but he didn't have any backbone. He could just put on a show, but when push came to shove, he didn't do anything. You understand? So, he was an inner weakling, but outwardly he, outwardly he would fake strength, but he really was weak inside. So I said, you need to send him to a yeshiva that, to a Jewish school that the boys there are tough, that the Rabbeim there are tough, you understand? And then when he thinks he's going to create his little mafia in the yeshiva, the other boys will beat him up. And then he'll learn that you don't act this way, because in this nice yeshiva, nothing gets done to him. You understand? The only thing you could do is kick him out. You understand? And that's not really teaching him anything. So, and people are very scared to just kick out Bachram also, rightfully so, because if you do kick them out, what happens to them? You're responsible. You can't just kick people. You have to place them somewhere else. So I told this person that was, had a kesher with this boy, that you need to send him to this yeshiva, because there the boys are tough, the Rabbeim are tough, and he'll learn his place, and he'll learn that good things don't happen to bullies, bad things happen to bullies. You understand? And he said he hears me this and that. I said it, I went into a bit of psychology and explaining him life and things. I always find it funny, like, you talk to people that are in charge of shidduchim, in charge of yeshivas, people that are, I don't know, I'm speaking to people that are in their 80s, and when I speak to them, they're listening, because they've never heard something like this. It's pretty amazing. They're like, I've even had people in their 80s that are like, how? In the 70s, late 70s, like, how do you do it? The basic things of life they don't know. It's so sad when you brainwash yourself, when you close your mind, how much wisdom you could lose. And also you have to learn a lot. You have to experience life. You understand, put yourself in difficult situations, of helping people, of doing things. And this is how a person gains big wisdom. If people go through life and on the easy mode, and they don't learn much, you understand? So I spoke to them this, I got the feeling maybe what I was suggesting to him would happen. And I was surprised. That, I don't know exactly how it came to be, but this bacher, this one specific bacher, was not only did they help him get into another yeshiva. They didn't just throw him out. They placed him in a different yeshiva, but they placed him in the yeshiva that I suggested. You understand? They listened, which is very weird. Most people, I'd speak to them, I try to help them, give them advice, and they don't do anything. You understand? Only when you're pushed against the wall, you understand? And when it comes to this, the Rebbeim could always just avert their eyes from the pain of the other Bakrim. They don't have to, because young people, they don't stick with it, so it goes away pretty quick, but then it keeps coming back, and they're living with that fear. But even when a young person lives with fear, they're full of energy. So you could fake that it's not a big deal, you understand? But he came through. I don't know what happened, but he did it. And I meet the Bacharim a few months later in this yeshiva, and they're like, they're thanking me. And every single time I bump into a Bachar from that 10th grade, because they knew me, the Bacharim in 9th grade or younger, they sometimes also think, but they didn't really know me. But the 10th grade, they knew me because I was sleeping with them. They thanked me every single time. I meet them on Purim and they're half drunk. They come and they're thanking me. They said that the whole yeshiva changed. The whole yeshiva changed. People are steiging. People are not living in fear. People are there isn't this bullying going on. People aren't getting beat up. The whole avira of the yeshiva, the whole atmosphere, the whole atmosphere of the yeshiva changed. And I was extremely happy. But now people are going to say, well, what about that boy that you sent to that got sent to this other place? So first of all, he wasn't kicked out. And I made it clear that kicking, you have to place them in another place. You don't kick people out. You place them, you find the yeshiva that is good for them. Right? And that's what he did. It's not that this yeshiva and that yeshiva, this one's better and that one's worse. No. This yeshiva is good for this type of boy, and that yeshiva is good for that type of boy. And to think that this yeshiva is better, and to force someone that should really be in a different type of yeshiva to go to this one, is actually malpractice, is actually hurting them. This idea that this yeshiva is better, and that yeshiva is better, and this one's worse, it's not true. It's not true. So I meet them, for a few months. They had bump into them over a few months, a few times. And then they tell me that this Bachar that was the bully of the yeshiva, that everybody was scared of him and worried, and the whole avir of the yeshiva was down, and they weren't learning as well. But the Rebbeim, were, they could easily avert their eyes, because the youth, the energy that they're putting out is more than looks for when someone's old and they're having someone bullying them, they have very low energy. So, but a young person, even when they're being bullied, they have high energy. So you could think that they're not being bullied. You could fool yourself. You could let yourself be fooled. And that's what was happening here. It's also important, to know. You have to be able to, as a young person, he should really be at this energy, but he's not. That means there's something happening. You have to learn. If you want to be someone that's a real psychologist, a Torah psychologist, a Torah psychologist, what in the Lashon of Chazal we call Chachma Sachar, a person that understands life. You understand? This is how you calculate things, not according to what I would do in the situation, but someone at that age, what would be their proper response? And if they're not, that means there's something happening. Okay, getting back. So this boy is in that yeshiva for a few months, and he never experienced, he was never in like a yeshiva that was meant for him. His parents always try to push him into what people call the good yeshiva. That fake idea. That's what they did. So he never experienced someone fighting back. You understand? He never experienced, if you mess with me, I'll mess back. He didn't experience that. And these boys where he was, the yeshiva that he went to, all those boys are strong, they're tough, they have wit, and even if they're weak, they'll still do it, just to, you understand, so he goes there and he thinks that he could do that, and he gets beaten up. Could you imagine that? He gets the boys, he tries to create a thing, and they're like, the whole place is strong boys, people that are extremely energetic, and they'll stick up for themselves even under all circumstances. And it's none of this, the Adel mindset there. Understand? The Adel mindset is like at a higher level. Like, you understand? Don't disrespect. It's at a more mature level. Like when people get older, that's the way these boys are thinking. You understand? So he tried to do what he does there, and he got beaten up. And then he calls back these Bachrim in the yeshiva, I guess the 11th grade. He calls them back, because the 11th grade, once he left, the whole thing of this mob culture, this bullying culture, the whole thing disappeared. So he told them, and then now everybody's friends. 11th to 10th, everybody's friends. Everybody, So he told them. It could be even told the 10th grade. I don't know. It could be the 10th grade spoke to him. Also, he told them that he's in this yeshiva, and he's, he's telling them how he got beaten up a few times, and he's turning into a human being. He's turning into a mensch. Why? Because he's in the right yeshiva. It's not that this yeshiva is good, that yeshiva is not good. This yeshiva is good and that yeshiva is good. Each yeshiva has a certain type of boy. And if your child is not that type, then you're hurting your child for having him in that place. And this is something that so many people do not realize. And they hurt their children. So this is what happened there. And now Baruch Hashem, this other boy is steiging. And it was I knew that this is how things play out. You understand? I knew. I didn't have a lot of experience in the physical world. I'm very young. I'm not a rabbi, a rebbe. You understand? I'm not that. But understanding how life works, I knew that this is what needs to be done, and this is how things are supposed to be. And if you follow the way, the reality of how Hashem created this world, it could only get good. It could only be better. You understand? It could only go the right way. And chas v'shalom, if you don't, that creates a big chance of bad things happening. And that's what happens. A lot of unfortunate things happen. So I don't even want to get into it. This is a different yeshiva that's considered this is a very chashiv yeshiva, and one of the boys there was a trickster. So he would sit and trick every time the Rosh Yeshiva walked in, he would make believe like he's steiging, and the Rosh Yeshiva really thought that he was like this, like a very, very good bacher. You understand? And I just want to say there's other there's other types of Rosh Yeshivas that understand a person that's more of a gavra. They'll look at that as more chashiv. You understand? But I'm just saying in this specific yeshiva, that's the way they looked. If you were steiking very hard, they looked at you as chashiv. And he would chuckle to himself all the time because he knew he was faking it. But and the yeshiva is thinking of him as this, but really he's not really learning too much. He's hockey, but he just fakes it when the Rosh Yeshiva walks in. And he had such hana that he could trick the Rosh Yeshiva because in the yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva is considered like the great, smart person and, righteous and if you could trick him, that like for someone who's looking for this type, he'll think that he's very smart, that he's very talented, and that he's a good trickster. You understand? What happened to this bacher? Many years later, he got involved in illegal types of things. I don't know, drugs, or I don't know exactly, probably something like that. So, and the police caught him, a whole story. So you see, that type of bacher being in this Adel yeshiva wasn't the right thing, because it let him cultivate his kaiches into something negative. It let him cultivate his abilities into something negative. And therefore it's so important that to not put a blind eye on who your child is, and that he should go to the yeshiva, which is matim, which fits him, and then he'll grow into someone, and his abilities will turn into doing goodness and becoming a productive part of society, a person of goodness, of holiness. You understand? And that's something we need to know. We need to know, and we have to remember we have to try very hard to remember that when we're figuring out which yeshiva to send our kids to, which school, this one, that one. Don't think of the prestige of the place, that people say this is prestige, but rather the main thing is work on figuring out who your child is. And once you figure out who your child is, which is most of the work, that's the real hard work, then you figure out which yeshiva, which school fits him. You understand? And it's interesting because in life, this is also something that's, when it comes to countries, it's something also. It's, the little things that we, they could also be expanded into the big things. So in countries, understand, a country could have a certain type of edelness, a certain type of softness, a certain type of goodness. And if you bring in someone who's like a barbarian into that place, then it ruins the whole atmosphere. It ruins everything. So let's just say, in today that, when migrants, this idea of open borders, of letting anybody that is going through a difficult time in, you can't do that. Why? Because you can't let everybody in physically, right? You just can't do that. Second of all, the country is unable to. It takes time for a country, X amount of people they could accept, because you need an infrastructure. That's one thing. So you're limited in that aspect, but you're also limited because if you have a country that people have this type of temperament, this type of, you understand, this softness or this way of doing things, you understand, and then you bring people that are coming from a world where they think like barbarians, that they a world that is completely different from your country. So what's going to happen is, now, if it's in the good, meaning you have a country full of barbarians, and then good people come, people that are very refined, respectful, want to do kindness, you understand, people full of love, people full of Hashem, full of God, but it's funny that no person in their right mind wants to migrate to countries of barbarians, but countries of barbarians want to migrate into countries of refined people. You understand? Because they can do whatever they want. You understand? So people have to be understanding of that, understand and appreciate this reality of life. And if we understand this, then we could deal with things better, and we could figure out other options, other solutions, ways. You could create a system. Understand that first, you need to create a system that we're getting refined, good people that will be good citizens. You understand? People full of God. You understand? People full of kindness and love and passion, and not lust and deceit and hate and killing and all these other negative, evil traits. This is super, super important. And for us to understand, people, they get stuck. I'm a Democrat. People get stuck. I'm a centrist. People get stuck. I'm a Republican. They get stuck into the groups. Now, of course, there's the, basically there's Democrats and Republicans, these two parties. And of course, you gotta pick the party that, you vote for the party that has, better ideals. You understand? Obviously. But at the same time, if a party, if you shouldn't become slaves to it. You understand that it becomes part of your personal identity. You understand? You're just trying to do the best for your kids. You're trying to do the best for your city, and the best for your nation. This is what you're trying to do. You want your neighborhood to be safe. This is what you're trying to do. You want your kids to grow up with other kids and not learn, to steal and to be thugs and to, do terrible things. You don't want that. And that's what so you pick the group that is best for that. But sometimes, people got stuck with this Democrat group. They got into it. I don't, I learned, so I don't really get into, I don't sit and, I'm not Ben Shapiro going into all the media and I don't go into the sugya b'ien of politics. I don't go. I want to have a healthy, basic understanding, but I don't sit and spend my time going into awesome depth into it. You understand? But one thing is certain, that the Democrats turned into something that is loathsome, that is horrible to look at. And people, they called themselves a Democrat, and that became part of their identity. And therefore, even if they turned into some type of monster, people felt that it was personal to them, and they felt forced to go along. A person has to know that don't become completely emotionally invested. Don't make that that's who you are. Because that's not who you are. You understand? It's not. You're someone that serves God. This is a party. They get many things right, some things they get wrong. And I'm not endorsing the wrong things. I look for the party that has the best, has the most good things about them. You understand? And keeps me safe, my children safe, my neighborhood safe, keeps the country safe. Doesn't take away all the money, doesn't keep taking away more and more money that I earn, right? Simple things. People, they start arguing about certain deep types of details. That's not what's affecting people in life. You have to think, what affects me in life, and which party helps me with that. And if it somehow happened that the party slowly changed, and this party became aggressive, and the other one is the kind one, then I switch. You understand? Because my identity is not this party. My identity is what is good, what is righteousness, what is loved before God. That's what's good. You understand? What does Hashem machshav? Which one, from these two, would Hashem choose? You understand? That's how we need to think. Let us take these lessons, very important. The only thing that we should be obsessed about in life is serving God, learning His wisdom, teaching it to others, doing kindness, becoming a force of good. Those are things that we're supposed to be obsessed about in life. And there's these other areas that you need to do. You need to choose this or that. This, you don't need to be obsessed about it. You understand? And being obsessed about those things makes you unable to be obsessed about things that you should be obsessed about serving God, about loving Him, about doing real kindness to your children, educating them properly. You understand? Treating your wife properly, treating your husband properly, being kind, being honest, being loyal. This is what we should be obsessed about. And Mitzvah Shem, with us doing this, I think will change the world and bring the world closer. And hopefully, in our time, and as soon as possible, will make the world a befitting place for the Mashiach, for the Messiah to come. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.